Welcome to Life in LA, a look at people and places in Lower Arkansas, our LA. Lower Arkansas is made up of the 15 southernmost counties in the state. Join us each week as we talk to some of the people who make this part of the world such an interesting place to live. And now, let's join Life in LA with our host, Steve Ford.
Columbia County will soon have a new history of our county published. It's being printed and gathered the information by Acclaim Press. We are happy today to welcome to our program a representative of Acclaim Press. Sir, tell us your name and where you're from.
My name is Doug Sikes, and I'm from Sikeston, Missouri.
Doug Sikes from Sikeston, Missouri. So was the town named after you? Or
Well, I got here a little late for that. They founded it back in 1860, so I hadn't quite showed up yet, but I discovered America about a century later, and but I am kin to the founder John Sikes from that era.
Right. Now your business card says you are publisher of Acclaim Press. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's my role, and we publish books all over the United States and in a lot of different subject matters. But one of our divisions does specifically county and city histories, and that's what brought us to Columbia County, Arkansas.
Well, your necktie was intimidating to me, and now I find out you're the publisher of Acclaim Press. I'm going to have to throw in the towel, but Doug, we're glad to have you on Life in LA. It's all about Lower Arkansas, and of course this will be a new history for our county, and we're glad to have you. You and Mike G have been working together today, and you've been in town making some contacts, but before we get too far, tell us a little bit about the publisher, about Acclaim Press, and what kind of work you do.
Well, Steve, we're based in Sikeston, Missouri, out there where I'm from. It's in the Boot Heel, Missouri, which is the part that hangs down into Arkansas.
So that little notch up there, yeah.
It's and I've heard the story of why it's there, but it's some weird political story from 200 years ago. But it's almost like being in Arkansas. It's the next best thing to being in Arkansas.
If the line had been drawn further north, you would have been in Arkansas.
It could have easily been arranged, but for some reason they didn't want us, I think, and we ended up in Missouri. But we've been doing books like this for 33 years now, and all across primarily in the Mississippi Valley, Ohio Valley regions where most of those occur. We do a lot of books for law enforcement. We've done histories of the Arkansas State Police. I've done several histories of the Little Rock Police Department and Little Rock Fire Department.
Mm-hmm. We've got a copy of this Greene County, Illinois, but it's a nice-looking book. Tell us how the books are organized and what kind of information they have in them.
Well, thank you, Steve. They are beautiful books. Mm-hmm. They're large coffee table books. It's not something you want to just put on the shelf and hide, but you'll set it on the coffee table for relatives to see and friends when they come over. And in fact, I'll hold it up to the microphone so they can see how beautiful it is.
Get a little bit closer there.
See, can y'all see there? It is nice. Mm-hmm. We got a leatherette. It has a grained leatherette cover on it. Ours is going to be green, isn't it, Mike? And it'll have gold leaf artwork on it, which we designed a custom logo. If you'll notice, it's got the beautiful Columbia County Courthouse and all of its glory preserved on there. Mm-hmm. And that'll be embossed and raised up in gold on the cover of this thing. Something people be very proud to not only own, but we've got right now you've got the unique opportunity to be in it.
I could be in it?
You could be in it.
Okay. The Fords would be represented then.
Absolutely. We couldn't do it without you.
Mm-hmm. How do you prepare your article, or how do you do that?
Well, it's very simple. Everybody in the county, if you either live here now or have ever lived here in Columbia County, you qualify to be in this book. And we want you to just stop and take a few minutes to write up the history of your family. Mm-hmm. Start with the generation that first come here. Whatever, I don't care if it was last year, if you moved to Columbia, you are the pioneer that will establish the homestead.
My great-grandfather moved here from northern Louisiana. The Ford chair factory, he manufactured those chairs, and part of the chair is made out of baywood, which is another word for it is wild magnolia. Huh. And he thought in a town like Magnolia there would be lots of baywood growing here. he was disappointed. There was not as much. Back then. There were not as many magnolia trees or wild bay.
Yeah.
But he manufactured those. So it was my great grandfather. So I can start there.
Yeah, that's exactly
through
right.
the Fords. So how many families do we have submitted so far?
Well, we're just getting started, but we've got already close to 100 families who have written stories for us.
Wow.
And submitted them, and there'll be many, many more before we get through with this thing. It takes a while. It takes a while for the momentum to build. And what we want them to do is you get 500 words. It's free. This thing's free. 500 words and one picture free.
Oh, I can get my picture in the book. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'd better make it one of my great-grandfather, I think, or all the other Fords are going to descend on me.
Steve, I shouldn't have said it like that.
Well, it's said and it's on tape, so.
You are very welcome. And we have Photoshop, and we can edit the picture.
Fix it. Let me flip back through my phone and show you some.
You won't even recognize you. But no, that's exactly what we're looking for. And we meant that. Whether your family come here 150 years ago, an early settlement, or they came here we talked to some folks today that just moved here last year. And we said, look, we want your story in there. You're now part of Columbia County history.
Wow. I talked to a lady last night that had just moved to our county.
Yeah.
So she could get her story in there too. It'd be less to write, maybe.
Well, she can talk a little bit about where they came from.
Oh, yeah.
And why they're here.
And that is one of the most fascinating things, seeing where people have come from. They come from all over.
They have. Of course, Mike here, he's done enormous amount of research on settlement patterns and where the early settlers that came here and the various explosive periods of growth that it's happened through the years and what brought them here. And it's different, from early settlement with farmers, he was telling us. Then later on, the railroads brought people in. Then later on, the oil boom brought people in. And so, but yet today, there's new reasons for people that come here, and we want to document that and tell where they came from and why they're here.
You showed the book to the microphone, but I'm going to show we do have Mike sitting in the room with us. I'm going to just turn the camera around, turn the phone around, and we ask him to be quiet. So he's doing very well down there. But you and Mike, I guess, have spent some time. You've been visiting folks in town, is that right?
We have, and Mike is doing a really good job of being quiet. He's having to work. He's working hard at it.
I noticed him snickering down there.
The strain on his face.
Yeah.
But truly, he's the one that should be speaking about. He knows this county's history, and he has written an extraordinary, detailed history of Columbia County, all the way back from the original indigenous people that were here and to the early settlers, all the way through today. He's got history of all the little towns, from Magnolia to Waldo and Emerson and all of them. And so he's done a fantastic job. And we're going to have that featured. That'll be the first section of this big book, is Mike's history.
Yeah, Mike and I talked when I interviewed him, and I guess he's still speaking to me. I called him the next Nettie Hicks Kilgore, and he didn't bat an eye at that. But we haven't had a recent history. I guess Mrs. Kilgore's book was written in about 1947. 47, yeah, 40. Wow. A long time ago, before I was even born. So we're well overdue for an updated history. How can I get a copy of it? What's the best way to?
Well, the best way is we're taking reserve orders on that. That's the one way you can be sure to get one. That we'll reserve a copy, or as many as you'd like. We have some options on it. You can order. This is the standard one. This beautiful one I held up to the microphone is a leatherette. It's an imitation leatherette, but it's as nice as any encyclopedia put together. In fact, Steve, this paper here we use it's an acid-free archive quality paper. It's designed to last over 200 years. And our company policy on that is if it's not in good shape at that time, you can bring it back for a full read.
So I could bring my book back in, say, 100 or 150 years.
200, give it 200 years. 200 years. And if it's not in good shape, bring it back.
Bring it back.
As long as you've got a receipt, we'll give you a refund at that time if you're not happy with it.
That's a great promise, Doug. But not many companies stand behind their product like that.
Long, too. And I will be there personally to inspect that. But you can also custom order it with a real bonded leather cover if you want to. And a lot of the families, you can have your name at the bottom, the family name put down in gold.
Embossed on the cover.
personalized, and that's a nice touch. I know people are ordering them for their children and grandchildren, and to give them for Christmas presents. And
Oh, I didn't talk about that. When do you think the book will be available?
Well, we've got a long way to go on compiling it, but it'll be out in 24, probably maybe the summer, late summer of 24, something like that. We've got a good ways to go, because it's going to be a massive volume.
So the first portion of it will be Mike's history. I think Mike had said he had written something like several chapters, something like a lot of several chapters that will be included in there. And then the next section would be the individual families.
It's in 3 primary sections, Steve. We've got Mike's section as the feature in the beginning of it, and then a lot of course, photos and old maps and illustrations and everything like that. Then the second section is what Mike and I are working on right now. We're doing the histories of all the churches and the businesses and the clubs and organizations and schools. And they're writing those stories for us. They'll write the history of the hardware store, history of the florist shop, and I tell you, I don't know that I've ever seen any greater enthusiasm for that. We were down on the square today here in Magnolia, and people just love their town and their heritage, and they're so proud of it here, and they're going to write some great stories for us.
We'll look forward to that. I know the local newspaper used to publish an annual, they called it the Progress Edition. They and Warnock Furniture are the 2 oldest businesses in our county that are still open today. And I suppose they'll have the opportunity to have an article about that and photographs and things like that.
They surely will.
And you're looking for church participation, church histories.
Yes, we are. We're wanting all the churches to do the same thing, to write up the story about when that church was started, who established. Someone had, circuit riding preachers coming through here, and pioneers, and all kinds of different backgrounds, and some of them may have split off of this one or that one. And
there's Hope Baptist, there's New Hope Baptist, and there's No Hope Baptist. All of those are located within a few miles of each other.
Yeah. We want to hear how those all came to be.
Exactly.
Because there's a story behind every one of those. And none of this stuff happens on its own. It's always somebody had to believe in it, had a vision in it, and put in a lot of hard work and money to make it happen. And we want to document that so people will know.
That will be a good volume to have. So probably in 2024, the book will be published and delivered.
Yes, it will. And the thing about a book like this, if you haven't picked up on it already, it's truly a community project. We've got Mike's outstanding skills as the general historian, but the rest of this book, if you want your family history to be in there, you got to write it.
Write it up.
If you want your church's story in there, you got to write it. If you want your business story in there, you have got to make sure it's in there.
Now you'll tidy them up. You do a little editing and make them look right.
We do. We have a staff of very skilled editors that will be going through and proofreading, and we don't change the flavor of the vernacular and the particular style of that writer. We let that come through, but we do want you to look good in print. So
As good as we can.
As good as possible.
We're sitting out here at the Columbia County Library in my adopted office, Study Room 1. The local library has been involved in this project, right?
They have. We couldn't do it without them, really. They've been so good to provide us with the facility. This is where people are bringing their information.
It is?
They're dropping it off here and mailing it into this. And some are doing, we also have digital submissions these days, and people are able to send it in over the internet to some particular address.
Yeah, you've got the brochure. Hold that right up. Yeah, there we go.
So the listeners can see it better.
Yeah, hold it still now.
I just overloaded your circuit. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. These brochures were mailed out county-wide, but there are other copies. I try to file everything I get in the mail at home too, but I don't always hang on to the valuable things. You can pick up another copy of the brochure here at the library and see a copy of the book. They have an actual sample. They can see that archival quality and the binding quality and all of that. So if you're thinking about having your name and possibly my picture in the new county history, this would be the time to get busy. Doug, you're just going through all the pages down there. It looks like you're looking for just that piece of data that we need to close the program.
Well, it is. Steve, I didn't even think of that till you mentioned it, but your picture will be in this book, and that will boost sales.
I bet it would.
People want to see what
Listen,
it
Doug,
looks like.
I tell people I have a voice that's good for the back row of the choir and a face that was made for radio. So that's my claim to fame.
I did finally discover that at the email address for digital submissions to the book, those if you wish to, and it's an easy way to do it. Mm-hmm. You can send it to Columbia County Book. That sounds almost self-explanatory.
Columbia County Book.
Columbia County Book at acclaimpress.com, and that's ACCLAIM press.com.
I'm going to write out that email address in the introduction portion to the podcast so people can, many of us here in Columbia County like to see it in writing. It's something that we are visual learners. That's it.
Well, you know what they call us up in Missouri, don't you?
No. What?
Our nickname is the Show Me
The Show Me State. That's it. Well, we're
visual learners
since
too.
you're from Missouri and we're from Arkansas, we're going to show them. We'll put that in the written part. I find that most people look at the written part rather than actually listen to the podcast sometime. But Mike's podcast was one of the top. Started to say viewed, but they didn't view it. They listened to it,
yeah.
And his was very popular. And I have no doubt this one will be one of the most popular podcasts in South Arkansas, possibly in all of Magnolia. We just don't know. Well, Doug, it has been fun. The longer we've talked, the more I've enjoyed visiting with you. The necktie, the title of publisher, I'll have to admit, they threw me a loop, but I've gotten over that. And by the time now that the interview is drawing to a close and we're all comfortable here, it's time to sign off, I guess.
Well, Steve, I want to thank you for letting me be a part of this broadcast, and I hope it's been informative. And I would encourage everybody be a part of Columbia County history. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Great, thank you so much, Doug, for driving down from Missouri to be on Life in LA.
Thanks for listening to Life in LA. Feel free to contact us at steveford@gmail.com if you have a suggestion for a future topic. And as always, tell others about this podcast and share it on your favorite social media. You've been listening to Life in LA, a production of Steve Ford Photography.